Hello and welcome to Apex Racing Series Season 2, the Indianapolis Grand Prix. Now this is probably one of the, in drivers' opinions, worst track on the calendar, and I'm sure they will be very glad to get it done with. Especially for this week, we are starting with quite a lot of rain, so we may see a lot of mistakes from these drivers, and hopefully a lot of good racing from these drivers. To start. The lights are going out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the lights are out for the Indianapolis Grand Prix. Some slow starts for Apex Racing Series Season 2, and down they go into turn 1. Start there, but I'm sure he'll work his way up to the field.
No Yushi today.
No Yushi today. BR Master's not here either. There is a little bit less attendance. I think so, but there is already a fight for P1. Pedro and Dungeon only a tenth away from each other right now. Oh, and is that Zyro who just spins and goes into the wall? He doesn't miss. He doesn't lose his front wing though. I think it was quite a light tap. He can definitely recover from this.
Coming around the last corner, coming into the lap, second lap here. All right, second lap, fastest lap, 1:18.4 by JCN.
Well, these times are definitely going to go quicker, only because that was the start of the lap. And Dungeon and Pedro are neck and neck right now, almost side by side. Dungeon following a little bit behind Pedro now. I think we might already have a crash. Is this Irma? Irma on the main straight is crashing the racing ball, and Irma is out of the race already on lap 1. That is not what you want to see from a driver. That is a big crash. Turk is fallen quite far behind. I'm not too sure what happened to him either.
Lost both of his wings. His tires are done. Green flag now.
But we are green flag racing again. Pedro still leads.
You got a hard braking section right here. This is one of the hardest sections on the course. You only got to watch that. You go to a fast section and then you immediately have to slow down.
That's right. And look at that. We already have a change for the lead. Dungeon is now leading in the Ferrari on his debut in Apex Racing Series. Overtaken Pedro. Coming down now onto the main straight. This is probably, I guess, a very dangerous section for some. Irma somehow crashed on the main straight. I'm not too sure if it was a mechanical failure or if it was just something going on. But I don't know what's going on with Turk. I think he's having some sort of mechanical failure because look, he is slowing down more and more.
Him. First was sliding a little bit.
But now look, he's 16 seconds behind. He's fallen behind. I don't know what's going on. There must be some sort of mechanical failure. Turk is very quick, so there must be something going on there that we don't know about. But this fight still continues. Usterlord has brought himself up into P3. His teammate Zyro is making his way back up in P7. He crashed on the first lap, but it was only minor. He's definitely still got a lot of time, the whole entire race still, to get back.
Right. Dungeon and Pedro coming off that main straight, moving into the brake section.
This is probably one of the most nasty sections with the conditions we're at right now. You have to be so careful with these rears. I mean,
I've raced this track a lot. It's one of the hardest sections without the rain.
But the rain is this rain is pretty hard right now. I think it's about 55% rain, so we're almost closing on that wet tire choice, but it's just good enough for Inter still. I'm pretty sure the weather forecast will dry up around halfway through the race, but for now, these drivers, I guess they're not showing their complete full pace because the wet is very hard to be quick in. But look at this fight again. Dungeon and Pedro still fighting, only 2 tenths away from each other. Their pace is on point right now. I don't think this fight for P1 is going to end anytime soon. Osterlord is still in P3 with Prix them overtaking Jay-Z. And the fight in the McLaren and the Audi is continuing. Prix is kind of in a McLaren sandwich right now. Sweet jelly behind him. And there seems to be a bit of a gap between the drivers starting to happen. And JC has a bit of a real wheel spin. It goes up a little bit, and I think Prix might take this and try and attack him and get into a possible P4 position. This would be a really good finish for Audi if they can get some more points. McLaren are desperate for these points too. But while we continue, Dungeon and Pedro continue to fight. They are going at it right now, and I don't think this fight will finish until the end of the race, until one of these drivers makes a mistake. And right now, their pace is incredibly equal. We're on board with Pedro right now. It seems like he's about to get the overtake on Dungeon. They're side by side, going to some of the more trickier sections in the wet. And Pedro has got in front of Dungeon, but I don't know if this is going to last for long. It looks like Dungeon's back in front. Going on now to the back straight, and the Ferrari and the Red Bull, they are just not separating from each other. They're like glued together. I don't think they're gonna even be a second apart until the race stops at this rate. Their pace is almost identical. Osterlord is catching a little bit, 10th by 10. So maybe Osterlord, as I say that, Osterlord has just lost a couple more tenths than I expected. But Alpine are not in the worst position right now. They are getting more points, but they really need to bring up to a double podium if they want to try and overtake Red Bull. There is only one Red Bull driver at the moment, considering that most of the time Red Bull have both drivers, and it's the reason why they have so many points in the constructors right now. But even with a win or a P2, that would still benefit Red Bull a lot. And looking at the constructor standings at the moment, they still have about an 80-point lead over Sauber. And there are no Sauber drivers on the track right now, so Sauber is not gaining any points. And Alpine, about 160 points away. So it's going to be a real stretch if they want to try and catch up. In the run, as we continue going it down into almost lap 7, Dungeon and Pedro, they don't want to separate from each other. It's like they're best friends. But this is probably one of the most craziest battles I have watched. This is so neck and neck. They have not separated within about 5 tenths the whole entire time they have fought so far. As we go down now onto the main straight, onto lap 7, Pedro leading by 3 tenths. Is this where Pedro is going to start gapping Dungeon, or are they going to stay neck and neck for the next lap again? Does Pedro make an even bigger gap than he's already starting to make? A nice buffer between themselves. Also, while that's been going on, Osterlord has dropped behind Zyro and is now in P5. I'm not too sure what happened there.
JCN, McLaren's first podium.
That's what I was saying earlier, yeah. McLaren's first podium. They did get a P3 in the sprint of Silverstone, but this will be their first official main race podium. If JC can bring it home, he's only 3 seconds away from Pedro and Dungeon right now. He's got some great pace. I think it's maybe his debut too, so he's doing an absolutely amazing job to stay with these great drivers, and Pedro gets a slowdown, and Dungeon overtakes Pedro on the back straight. And Pedro needs to be careful now. Will JCN catch up? No, I think he must have got a slowdown too, because look, no, JC and Zyro are fighting for P3, and Zyro is right on the back of JC, and he might even get him going through this twisty section now.
Does Zyro have the lead? Does Zyro have the lead against JCN?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think they're side by side, going now, almost close to the main straight. Down. Going hundreds of miles an hour. JC is behind Zyro. JC's behind Zyro. I think Zyro has taken P3. And Dungeon, but the quickest time so far. What a lap for Dungeon. He's putting on the time right now. But Pedro is only 2.2 seconds behind. And we've seen Pedro make this gap disappear before. Side by side now by JC. And Prix with the fastest lap time so far. The Audi driver putting in the time. He's 17 seconds behind. But this could all change. The dry is coming soon. I think the rain is starting to slow down. I think it's starting to stop. I think in the next lap or two, we're going to see some slick racing.
I think some drivers might be saving their ERS for the softs. Because I think most of them will go on soft tires.
I would imagine
to finish
so.
out the race.
I mean, we have about, 8 laps remaining? So I think softs are definitely the compatible tire. I mean, if I were them, I would save. I would try and save all my ERS, get some softs on, go for an outlap, and then try and set the fastest lap as well. Go for it while your softs are still at the highest peak. And JC is trailing a little bit behind Zyro now. And DRS has been enabled. They will have it for the main straight. JC might actually have DRS on Zyro here, as Pedro sets the fastest lap time so far. Now that the rain is starting to die down, these drivers are going to be setting quicker and quicker times. JC has a giant run on Zyro, and I think he might have taken the place back into turn 1. And I think he does. They are neck and neck, these two drivers. And you can see that the rain is definitely starting to slow down now. Yeah. I think some drivers might be going for an undercut. It might be a smart move.
Now that the rain is slowing down, these inters are gonna work way better now. So
definitely, I've seen Breno in the Mercedes is on softs right now. Turk is pitting for softs. We haven't seen Turk for the whole of the race. I'm not too sure what he's been doing. I think there must be a mechanical failure going on with that Red Bull. There has to be something wrong. Benj is now also pitting in the Williams. Prix has pitted for mediums. And what about Dungeon? What about Pedro? The two leading drivers, are they going to go into the pits now? Pedro pits, but Dungeon stays out for another lap. Now the real question is, who is going to benefit from this more? I think Dungeon should have pitted too. A lot of drivers are now pitting. JC takes P2. JC decides not to pit either. That is an interesting move. What about Zyro?
I don't think that's going to work out for them in the end.
Zyro pits, gets some softs on. Oosterlord pits, gets some softs on. Pedro is also pitted, as we've seen. And Dungeon and JC are staying out. I'm going to go on board with Dungeon right now. And look how the rain is completely stopped. The sun is out. How is Dungeon going to manage with this? I think this is a very poor move by the Ferrari strategy team. And I think the same with McLaren. I think that when Dungeon gets into the pit, Pedro is going to blast through the main straight. And the same could even happen for Zyro and Oosterlord. They're only a couple seconds behind Pedro. And Dungeon is crawling. Dungeon is absolutely crawling across the track right now. He cannot make one risk. JC is sliding all over the place. Breno in the Mercedes, who was pretty far behind, is actually making a lot of ground now, and JC gets a slowdown! Oh no, I think that was a slowdown. He went incredibly slow. JC goes into the wall! It was not a good idea! Dungeon is now pitting for some softs, but JC is getting overtaken by Pedro! And there goes that opportunity for the podium, because Zyro and Oosterlord are speeding around, and JC is completely lost out. JC's lead is gone, and Pedro, as I said before, is past Dungeon. Dungeon is in the pits, and Oosterlord and Zyro are past him. Alpine moves up into a 2-3. 111 for Matt. These lap times are going to come in quicker and quicker now, and Dungeon must be kicking at himself right now. He was leading the race, leading against Pedro, and now he is fallen back by 9 seconds because of him staying out for one more lap too late. JC, who's in P3, is now fallen back to P8. this is a nightmare for McLaren and a nightmare for Ferrari. They were in such great positions, and now they are trailing so far behind. And Alpine will say thank you very much for that, and they will happily take a double podium if they can keep it.
Ferrari strategy failing again. I think this happened last race too.
I think this is just the Ferrari curse. The strategy is not on for Ferrari.
I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure this happened in France last week, and I don't think it cost him too much. Since the 110, but I don't think it cost him too much. But
by 3.3 seconds, a nice healthy gap between himself and the Alpine driver of Zyro, who, remember, had a pretty subtle but definitely off-putting crash at the start of the race, and has crawled himself all the way back up to P2. I mean, that's a pretty great drive, if you ask me. Zyro has been putting in some really good laps.
Dungeon doesn't pit and destroys his chances of even getting to the podium.
Yeah,
like that was a terrible call by Ferrari.
Very poor, very, very poor.
Ouch!
And here comes Pedro in the Red Bull, who now takes the flag and wins the Indianapolis Grand Prix of Apex Racing Series Season 2 with Zyro in P2 and Ursulon in P3. A great drive from... Oh my goodness, what a race that was. A lot of strategy bottles from a couple teams, and because of that a lot of benefits and some surprise podiums, and some pretty strong wins for some certain teams. So we hope you enjoyed, and we will see you all for the Mexican Grand Prix next week along with the sprint race.